Makes me feel tough. Okay, I'm live on YouTube. Okay. Welcome to my live. I didn't do one yesterday. I don't do them every single day. I used to sometimes do 2 lives a day when I was just doing them on TikTok. Now I've got to set up for YouTube, and then I do Instagram. It's just a lot more work. It's easier when I just had to push one button. So anyway, okay. So if you go in the link above, you'll see my everything I've got to offer up there. My free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, 3 to 12 years old. That's how to get respect in 5 weeks. Or you can hire me for coaching. That's the top level. So, sorry. Ugh. I was just outside. So I got like the snotsicles. Okay, so I remember when I was a kid, the very first time I ever heard snotsicles. I'm still laughing. I thought that was the funniest thing I ever heard. And I'm 63 and I still think that's funny. There you go. It gives you a bit of insight into how mature I am. Okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions and I'll do my best to answer them. Okay. So I'm just waiting for parenting questions. Whew. No parenting questions yet? I'm not usually on at this time. Actually, it should be good because I shouldn't get that many questions or shouldn't get that many people on this time on a Saturday, especially with Christmas shopping. So that means I should be able to get to all your questions because I normally can't. So that's good. Okay, how to help a toddler adjust to a new baby? Nah, it's impossible. That would be like saying, how do I adjust to my husband bringing home a new girlfriend to live with us? It's kind of like that. It's one is justified, one isn't, but it's the same kind of an uprooting feeling. It's like someone else comes in and takes my mommy and daddy away from me, and all of a sudden I'm second banana. I mean, it's just, you can't prepare them for that. It's hard enough to prepare yourself for a new baby, let alone expect your little toddler to understand what's going to happen. It's your expectations are out of whack. You can't prepare them for it. You can try and get them their own little doll and all that stuff, but they still might grab the baby and throw it on the floor. So just watch them like a hawk until you know that they're okay with it. It's just an adjustment period. 3 kids, 5 years, almost 4. So you got 5, 3, and 11 months. Oh my goodness. Okay. I feel we are just overwhelmed and can't give to any good parents. Can't give. Okay, so you just feel like you're lousy parents right now. Yeah, you're not alone, by the way. That's a lot. What I would suggest you do is whenever you're feeling overwhelmed and you've got like 3+ kids, get systems in place. That's the best thing you can do. Start out with a toy rotation system. That I got lots of videos on that. So a toy rotation system just means that most of their stuff is put away at any given time, and then you pull out stuff, maybe once every week you transfer stuff over. So let's say they only have 90% of their toys put away and they only have 10% or 5% of their toys out at any given time. The whole idea behind that is that they tend to be able to focus better when they have less stuff around for overstimulation. It's impossible to focus in a hoarding mess. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just exaggerating here, but yeah, if you only have one thing in front of you, it's easier to focus than if you have 101 things in front of you. So that might help a little bit. It might they might not be as bored. Maybe they're bored too. But yeah, and usually once they take over hard. Kids kind of pick up on that, and it's like they're testing you to be a leader, but in the meantime, it's hell. Anyway, check out my boot camp course. That might be a really good fit for you. That's about how to get respect in 5 weeks. It's not 5 weeks of super hard stuff. You start small. 1 rule per week, okay? And go from there. It's just teaching you how to be a leader. It's more about bonding with your kids than it is about discipline. But the discipline's part of it too. My daughter's only 13 months. How do I get discipline going? Yeah. Okay. So I kind of consider them babies till they're 16 months. So in that period, you say no, but then you redirect or distract. So when they're older, you say no, and then you expect them to go off and find a better way to deal with life, right? So, but when they're little, you say no, but then you sort of say, let's go over and do this instead. So you got to give them something else to do. You got to show them how to play or how to be good rather than just expecting them to be. You kind of do that with toddlers too, but not as much. But yeah, you don't really discipline the baby. You just sort of redirect or use diversion. So if they're doing something repeatedly, jumping on the couch or whatever it is, You keep saying no, and then you might grab a book while they're not jumping. Quickly go grab their favorite book and start reading it out loud to yourself. And they might come and crawl into your lap. Just like, I got to turn the heater down. It's too hot. Okay. Okay. Oops, I just skipped through a whole bunch here because I don't answer them all in order, because sometimes, when more come in, then the people might have already left and I'm answering a question, they're not even here. So I tend to try and answer the most recent questions. Twin 6-year-old girls, really hard getting outdoor, getting dressed, fighting, and when coming out of school. Why are the transitions so hard? How to address it? Okay, actually transitions are very easy when you have expectations and consequences in place. So pick a battle, use the behavior board, it's completely free, or you can get the boot camp course, that's just sort of next level in how to do all this. But what you do is you just pick one battle. Let's say it's really hard a school morning routine is a really good one. So you can put down follow school morning routine, and then you write it on the board and you say, okay, you get yourself dressed, this and that, and then as soon as you're ready, then you can watch TV or whatever. Have a little bit of an incentive in there. But if you're not ready, there'll be a consequence. So there'll be, let's say, media blackout for the rest of the day, the rest of the night or something. I don't know. Check out the behavior board. It teaches you how to do rules and consequences. But you got to get organized. You got to have expectations. And if they don't follow through, then there's got to be a consequence. I need to know the age. You said your kids are climbing on the sofa. I don't know. Are they 3, 13 months? I need ages. 2 kids, 19 months and 2 months. 19-month really triggers me with food spitting and constant whining and yelling. How do I stop yelling? Okay, well, I can't answer that. How do you stop yelling? I can't answer. That's like saying, how do I stop overeating? I mean, no one can answer that but you. Also hits sometimes. Yeah, so you're just to 19. So it's a 19-month-old. Okay, so yeah, they're still really little. It's consistent corrective action. So pick a battle and say, I'm going to stop the spitting. Okay, so this week I'm just going to focus on the spitting. Every time that 19-month-old spits, you say no, and then you remove a toy from them, remove them from the fun, or just sit them down beside you. Timeout is different. Timeout is when they go somewhere else. But if you sit them down beside you, away from the fun, make sure you turn off the TV. Anything they're doing that's fun, turn it off, get rid of it. And then you make them sit there for just a few seconds or maybe a minute or whatever, and then they can go back. But you got to pick a battle. You just do one at a time, though. I would do all of them in one day, but I'm level 10 with what I teach. And kids don't have history with me letting them get away with stuff, so they learn really quickly that I'm in charge, right? But you're going to learn how to be in charge. That's what I teach. I don't fix kids here. I fix and teach parents, okay? So once you're a leader, they just don't, they just kind of don't act out. They just don't. But at 19 months, they're still learning, okay? But yeah. People ask me all the time, how do I stop yelling? It's like going to Weight Watchers. How do I stop overeating? It's the same thing. That is your battle. That is the self-discipline, the hard work. That is the hard work. Yeah. 4-year-old gets angry if she does something wrong and tell her not to do this. She gets angry, dreams, cries, and emotional. Okay, so she does something wrong and then I'm going to throw something at you here. I'm suggesting you are right fighters, you and maybe your partner. She must see that it's wrong to be wrong and it's only right to be right. If children who do something wrong and get very upset over it usually are in a household that it's not okay to be wrong. Failure is not an option. It's usually people who don't like to lose, often poor sports, a lot of competition going on. You fuss over the wins, the losses are like, oh, well, you'll do better next time. I don't talk like that. I wouldn't say that to a kid. As if they have to do better. It's okay to lose and it's okay to fail sometimes. Say, yeah, I failed all the time. That's how you learn. So that's usually, I could be wrong, but that's usually what grows that trait. When they get angry, when they don't get everything right, it's a learned behavior. They're not born like that usually. They're not usually born like that at all. That's something they've learned from you. So think about it. Am I right about that? I could be. I don't think so, but I could be. Is it too late to discipline a 13-year-old? What? Rebel and ADHD? I specialize in teenagers. I sometimes get people who have an 18-year-old. It's never too late. It's just a lot more work as they get older, as you can imagine. So yeah, if you want my help, you'd have to hire me. I don't know what's going on. And ADHD has nothing to do with it. That's where I learned all this. All those kids I worked with, hundreds of them throughout like 52 years, they all had AD. They all had something. I used to call them alphabet kids. They always had something after their name. Yeah, no one ever said to me, here's an easy one, Lisa. They all went, good luck with this one. So yeah, that's not too late. There's no guarantees with any of this, but I work on your relationship with your teenager, with all kids, but with your teenager, my first focus is your relationship with them. Then we can start to address their behavior. We don't do that until we've strengthened your relationship and taught you how to talk to teenagers. I'm going to read my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. Number 1 is you listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. If they want your advice, they'll ask for it. They already know it anyway, okay? So when you get good at what I call silent listening, they're going to tell you everything and they're going to trust you. Okay, number 2 is you negotiate pretty much everything. It goes something like this. I want your dirty clothes in the hamper. What do you want from me? You don't do it with absolutely everything, and there are exceptions, and there's a few little tweaks in how you do it, but that's the general idea. And then, because you got to give them a say in how their life goes. You got to give to get with teenagers, okay? And then number 3 with teenagers is don't sweat the small stuff. Save your energy for the big stuff if it ever happens, because you're going to need it, okay? So don't micromanage. If they make a small mistake, just say, yeah, that was stupid. Wait to hear what I did when I was your age. Like, be relatable. Teach them it's okay to make mistakes. That's how we all learn. They always say the road to success is paved with failures. So take that attitude with your kids. They're going to make mistakes just like you did when you were a teenager. You might not make the same ones, but toddler won't take his medicine. What should I do? I can't comment on that. I'm not a doctor, so I can't comment on that. Toddler bites all the time. How do I stop her doing it? Check out my toddlers who hit, bite, etc. That might be a good fit for you. It's one of my mini toddler courses up above. But basically, it's all about consistent corrective actions, not about words. You know, who was I talking? It was a client, I think. It must have been a client I was talking to. And they said, I told her it hurts my feelings. You're expecting a 2-year-old to give a crap about your feelings? You know, like, it's just expectations, reality. Like, they're selfish. They don't understand, you know, your feelings. They might in the moment pretend to, but they don't really grasp empathy at 2 years old. They just don't. So that's like you're trying to have the mini therapy sessions with them. They're about, no, you don't bite, no, and then there has to be a consistent corrective action because they learn through repetition. It's not going to happen twice. It's not going to take 2 times to fix that. It's probably more like 100. So the repetition, but they're going to remember the time you do it wrong. You got to, that's why you only pick one battle. Pick the biting. And then you say, I'm just going to end this, okay? Pick that one because you have to be consistent. If you forget one time to be consistent, they're going to remember that. They remember all your failures, not your wins. Reminds me of a funny story. My son was a teenager and we were laughing at all the dumb things I've done as a mother, and I've done a lot of them because I'm just really goofy. And I said, what about all the great things I've done as a mother? And he went, what? They love all your failures and when you mess up, when you do something stupid, but then you ask them about the great stuff. Can I hug her after correcting her in the moment? What for? To reward her for hitting you, biting you? I don't understand. Good bite. Let's hug it out. Yeah, you're doing the mini therapy session stuff. I'm not going to say any more about that. Why would you need, you know? How to control other kids influenced by 2-year-old. You want me to tell you how to control other people's children? I'm never going to tell you how to do that. No, I would never do that. I never did that in a million years. I don't discipline other people's children. Toddler withholding poop. Yeah, they're going to do that. Now, are they potty trained, though? Like, are they withholding because they've been potty trained, or are they withholding it? They don't even want to do it in the diaper. I don't know what you mean by that. Toddlers whining about everything, 4 years old. Well, by 3 and 4, they're preschoolers. A toddler is under the age of 3. So, yeah, they're whining about everything. I would say they're old enough. I would say, you know, the tone of voice that you use when you say, I want that. Say, I'm not even going to answer that tone of voice anymore. When you talk to me like that, I won't even answer you. If you ask me nicely and you say something like this, may I please have, say, I will answer you, but the answer still might be no. So make it very clear. And you might have to say that a few times because you don't just ignore whining if you've given it attention before. That's not fair. That doesn't make any sense. So you have to explain things are changing. So, and you don't put no whining on the behavior board. That's in the attitude department. That's as ridiculous as put down respect me or stop being out of control or stop yelling. You don't say that with kids. You don't ever address attitude with children. That's an unreasonable expectation. Blah, 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 blah. Well, I don't understand the difference here. How to cope with a 2.5-year-old that hits you outside? What's the difference between if they hit you outside or inside? I don't understand. Are you a different parent when you're outside? That's why they would hit you when they're outside. If you're in front of other people and they only act out when they're in front of other people, it tells me that you're an inconsistent parent and they know it. They know they can do whatever they want when they're, you know. So if you got a 2-year-old who's hitting, check out my Toddlers Who Hit, Bite, etc. It's one of my mini courses. Might be a good fit for you. And you think a toddler won't throw a tantrum? I feel one thing leads to the next. Right? They're supposed to. You're supposed to. What do you mean? What are you talking about, Jamie? Me talking to me? Boy, it's a hornet's nest you just entered there. If that's what I think you're saying, just a sec. I got to go back and find, because this is I got a whole bunch to say. What are you talking about? Just a sec, because I want to address this. If someone said, and you think they're this isn't going to lead to a tantrum, what are you talking about? Because I want to address that. Now I can't find it. Did you delete it? I can't find anything anymore. Now, I don't even know if this is what you were talking about, but I'm going to go on a rant anyway because it comes up all the time. Parents will say to me, what should I do with this? And I'll say, God, I'm sweating here. And I'll say, okay, this is what you do. And then they'll say, yeah, but then they're going to have a fit. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you want. That's the whole point. That's how they learn. If you've let them wipe their feet all over you yesterday and all of a sudden you decide you want to be a leader and you start to lay down the law and follow through, they're going to have a fit. That is the sign of change. If you are afraid of your children and you're afraid of a fit, a scene, a tantrum, guaranteed they're in charge. Guaranteed 100%. I remember once I was working with this kid. I don't remember the situation or how. He was under 8 or something. He was young, but old enough to say this to me. He said to me, if you don't give me what I want, I'm going to have a fit. And I said to him, bring it on. And he never did. If you're afraid of a fit, a scene, or a tantrum, 100% guaranteed they're in charge. And they know it. You cannot be afraid of that. That is the sign of change. You got to be willing to go through the storm to get to the rainbow. If you're afraid of these scenes, then they got you by the knackers. They're wiping their feet all over you. Please give examples of a corrective action with toddler. I'll give the easiest one. It's a bit of a cheat because it's the easiest one to do. If they hit with a toy, you say no and you take the toy away instantly. So basically the whole idea is you either remove them from fun, remove fun from them, or you can have them, you can actually take them away and put them in another room with you. Timeout is when they go up somewhere alone, but you can just have them in another room with you so they're missing out on fun. You got to remove fun from them or remove them from some fun, just for a minute or two. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to answer that, Jerry, on YouTube. That's not an appropriate question for here. Okay. So I've got a few questions here on YouTube. I don't have a big following on YouTube. My big following is TikTok, then Instagram, then Facebook, and then YouTube's last. I haven't figured that out yet. Okay, so this is from Hanny or Haney. I'm sorry, I'm probably saying your name wrong. On YouTube, I have a 3-year-old son. He always cries when other kids touch or take his toys. What should I do? Also, he's a picky eater. Okay, well, that's two. I'll just answer the first one. So if he cries when someone else takes his toys, that means that he doesn't like to share. But is it appropriate? Like what I mean is, does he have friends over? What you can do is you can say, oh, he's just going to have to get used to this. And you're going to say, okay, we're only going to put out in the toy room or in the family room what the other kids can play with, and put away his precious stuff. I had really precious stuff. I still am. I'm very fussy. But when I was a kid, especially, kids would come over and wreck my stuff. Everything I owned was perfect from day one right to I was an adult. Everything was in perfect condition. But friends would come over and they just disrespect my stuff and mess it up. So I learned at a very young age, Mom used to say, well, put your Barbies away then, or put your precious Barbie dresses away, the ones that you don't want ripped or torn or anything. So yeah, just have this conversation with them. Say, if you don't want to play, if you don't want to share that toy because it's your special toy, we'll put that away when you have friends over. So yeah, you can sort of manage that and figure out why he doesn't like it when other kids want to play with his stuff. Or is he out and about at someone else's house and he cries? Too bad, he's going to have to get used to that. He'll learn. Life isn't fair. Kids have to learn that. Siblings fighting. I've done a whole bunch of videos on that, on TikTok especially. I got so many answers for that. Siblings who are fighting. Which answer do I want to give? There's just a whole bunch of different methods. How many kids did you have? 3 kids, I think. Yeah, 6, 7, and 10. 6, 7, 10. Okay, well, I'm just going to go with my fluffy answer, the positive one. That how you encourage sibling relationships, healthy relationships, is you make sure that you don't single them out and do one-on-one time with each kid. Just when you're doing this, you can do that later. But once you're trying to get them to get along, you do stuff together as a whole so that they learn how to have fun together. Don't make it competitive. Don't play games like Monopoly. The first round of the board, everyone knows who's going to win at the end, right? So whoever jumps on or lands on Park Place and all the railroads, they're going to win anyway. So, and don't make it anything competitive. Make it something silly, something fun. Just play like silly games that are just, you could just have like, I don't want to go into it. I used to do crazy stuff with my kids. But yeah, it just encourages their relationship. And usually also, it's always in their world, and you play to the weakest link. So you don't play to the 10-year-old's abilities, you play to the 6-year-old abilities. And you just do theater, just act out certain scenes. We used to act out Ace Ventura scenes, my kids and I. It got crazy. We used to call them Make Mommy Laugh Nights. And then we changed the name to Make Mommy Pee Nights because I'd always run down the hall peeing my pants laughing. So we just had so much fun. So yeah, and then they end up laughing at you. So that bonds them. The number one thing that bonds children is laughing at their parents. So yeah, that's my fluffy answer for that. I'd always rather try and work with the bonding and the connecting rather than discipline. And yeah, so help them connect with each other and bond with each other that way. And if you want to hire me for siblings fighting, there's millions of things I can do. Whenever I don't know how to answer right away, it's because I got too many ideas and floating around in my head. I remember, now I know when I'm doing Zoom with a client, I know not to freeze for very long. It just means I'm thinking. So they'll often go, "Are you still there, Lisa?" So now I remember to blink, because if they pose something that I find like really, I want to think about this for a second, I used to just freeze and I go in my own little world. Like it's almost like Zen when I'm coaching. I'm just in my own world. But yeah, I'm just trying to figure everything out and all that. But I've learned to blink now. Okay. You said your middle child. I don't know. Are they 13 or I need an age? Thanks for all the parenting advice. You're very welcome. I love what I do. I'm very lucky. I was going to say coaching is my favorite thing, and it probably is because I connect with the parents. This is my most enjoyable and most relaxing thing I do in my business because there's no pressure. In coaching, I got to get them results, right? I'm obsessed with solutions. So, but here it's more relaxing because there's not that same pressure. And basically, I love talking to parents. I just love it. Thanks for sharing with us. I feel less stressed during tantrums. Perfect. Remember to embrace that stuff. That's there when you know you're laying down the law and you're doing things right. Maybe for the first time you feel like you're doing things right. They're going to fight back. They're going to get worse before they get better because they remember the old you. Okay. Any advice for a 5.5-year-old who constantly hits, bites heads, but can't handle any sort of request or demand? Being told what to do in any way, doesn't get tired and is hyper. Well, I've worked with those kids. That would be, you might take a look at the boot camp course. But I would say, I would be curious as to what kind of parent you are. So like what your style is, what your history is like. So I would almost suggest for you, you're kind of next level, that you're more in the red zone with this stuff. Not that he's, teenage stuff is more the red zone, but you know what I'm saying? It's sort of next level. You might want to look into coaching, and I would assess it before giving you any really sound advice, because I need to know what caused this. How did this grow? And then when you said can't handle any sort of request or demand, well, I don't demand anything from kids, so I would never do that. Yeah, yeah, it doesn't. I don't operate that way. So sounds like you're trying to be the authority, and he's kicking back against it. I'm suggesting you yo-yo between the pleaser and the authority, like most parents do. That's it. I'm taking, and then all of a sudden, there'll be a dishwag for ages. That's it. I've had it. Now they're the authority for 2 days. They wear out, and then they go back to being the pleaser parent. Like that's really common. Yeah, if you're really struggling and it's something out of the norm or just next level, that's coaching. Check out the link above if you want to hire me. And usually with something like that, it's 3 sessions minimum. Okay, here we go. Doctor thinks possible ADHD and ODD. I worked with all those kids. ODD isn't a medical diagnosis, by the way. It's doctors have told me it's just a term that they made up to make moms feel better about themselves. It's oppositional defiant disorder. It just means they're feisty kids and you can't handle them. That's all that means. So ADHD is a medical diagnosis, though. But yeah, those are all the kids I worked with. That's where I learned all this. So that's why it works so well with kids who don't have it, because they're just not quite that next level. I worked with all those next level kids. That's who they put me with. That's that's where I learned all this. So don't stop. Don't use those diagnoses as an excuse to let things go. That's your job, to set yourself up as a leader and to help them to make good choices. Okay, it doesn't matter what they have. Autism's different. That's a specialty. That's different. That's more what I call special needs. But yeah, just ADHD. That's where I learned all this stuff. And autism is only for coaching. I don't talk about autism on here. I don't understand. My 13-year-old is always not on his dash. Must mean something else. Never homework, never cleaning, never shower. I see myself constantly micromanaging. Bill is hating me. Okay, you got to hire me if you want my help with that. Because, with teenagers, they're my specialty. They're my favorite age. I started my business doing teen crisis work 17 years ago. Anyway, I'm going to read out my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. And number 1 is you listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. If they want your advice, they'll ask for it. By the way, they already know it. Number 2 is you negotiate pretty much everything. I won't go into that here, but you negotiate pretty much everything. Number 3 is don't sweat the small stuff. Save your energy for the big stuff, because you're going to need it if it ever happens. So you don't micromanage. Yeah. You got to pick your battles. That's why I say don't sweat the small stuff. Say you're micromanaging into a homework and never showering, and you're trying to deal with it all, I would pick one that we'd work on. But yeah, that would probably be 5 sessions, 3 minimum, but it could be 5. Usually teenagers are 5 sessions. If you want to work with me, you'd have to hire me for that. See, the thing is, I got to figure out I never fix kids here. I'm fixing and teaching parents. It's how you conduct yourself. That's all that matters here. I got to figure out where you're coming from, what you did in the past, and how we're going to change it. Also with teenagers, parents of teenagers, I got to find your strengths and weaknesses too. I don't know how far to push you, because usually with a teenager, you're pushed so far anyway, you can't handle my extra stress that I could put on you. So I've got to figure out how much you can take. But I do have to push you a bit. Yeah. Anyway, they're my favorite age. I love teenagers. I already answered that question with the fighting, by the way. Corrective behavior for a toddler hitting. I've tried subverting to high fives and firmly saying, no, we don't hit. Yeah, I don't do that. Didn't work, did it? Yeah. Toddlers who hit. Check out my Toddlers Who Hit, Bite, etc. course. It's a mini toddler course. It's up in the link above. It's consistent corrective actions. The words no, we don't hit. They don't give a crap. They're like, okay, I'll never hit again. Like, that's ridiculous. That's that. You're expecting them to find their inner adult when you talk like that. No, we don't hit. Oh, okay. Like, it's no point whatsoever. None. I remember when those the pleaser parent style came in, and it's all about making everything easy for your children. That's the bottom line. Make everything easy for your children. And it's also about feeding the mom's needs. These mini therapy sessions, discussing all their big feelings, their big emotions. And it's to make moms feel like better moms, and it has nothing to do with the kids. It's a total disaster. I remember the first time that it started with participation awards. I remember when I saw that coming in, I thought it was a joke. I said, are you freaking kidding me? You get an award just for turning up? Are you kidding me? Wow. I should get money just for buying a lotto ticket, shouldn't I? I shouldn't have to do anything. Everything should just come my way. Talk about raising self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. You didn't validate my feelings. I'm just the bus driver, lady. Like, that's what you're raising. If you do follow the please your parents style, you're just a dish rag. They're wiping their feet all over you. They're never going to respect you, and they're going to be self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. I'm exaggerating, but I'm just getting my point across. How does your advice work with a ADHD child of 8? Same as all the other kids. It's the same stuff. ADHD has nothing to do with your leadership. I don't understand that. ADHD isn't a special need, right? So I don't understand your question. Those are all the kids I worked with. I used to call them alphabet kids. I'm very proud of the fact I never opened up one file, not once, not ever. I worked with hundreds of kids, and I've been handed a lot of files, and I've never opened up one. I dealt with the person, not the diagnoses. I knew how to connect with kids and how to get the best out of them. And that's what I teach you. Okay. How to respond to a 5-year-old boy who constantly tries to tease his younger brother. I would say, okay, teasing is mean. It's only funny when the other person's laughing too. And you know the difference. I would say this to him. You know the difference. So I would use the behavior board. It's completely free in the link above. And I would put down no being mean to your younger brother. Just put no being mean. That encompasses hitting, teasing, whatever. And you say, I'll decide when you're being mean. Okay? So that he can't argue it then. So then every time his younger brother gets to play with his favorite toy for half an hour or something. You're mean to him. Now you got to be nice to him. And he can't play with him. He has to play. You play with the younger brother. It can just be 15 minutes even, but yeah. You're mean to him. Now you got to be nice to him. You did something mean to him. Now you're going to do something nice for him. Give that a go. That's one of my most effective discipline methods. Parents say that one works a charm. Do you have a boot camp for teens? I don't. One day I keep thinking, how on earth am I going to do that? Because every time I'm coaching teenagers, my advice is so different. Well, you know what I should do? I do have some very good general advice. I could just do a general one. But most people that come to me for teenage stuff, it's usually crisis or next level. Like it's usually, not always, but it's usually sort of next level. And that would all be coaching anyway. But I could make a general one, couldn't I? If you're not really struggling and they're not, running away from home and, having sex behind the bleachers at school. Yes, that happens. I could tell you a lot of stories that would curl your hair. But yeah, I guess I could do a one for generals, because I always think, whenever I think teenagers, I think crisis work, because that's how I built my business. But it doesn't have to be that, does it? So yeah, maybe one day I will come up with that. 23-month-old. Okay, you just said nice to see someone. It's refreshing. So you align with my advice. I think that's really important, because if you don't believe in what I'm saying, you're never going to do it anyway. So if you think, God, she sucks, just move on, because you'll never like me anyway. This is who I am. I never change. I'm 63. I'm not going to change now. And my advice has stayed the same I've been working with kids for 52 years now. And it's basically the same stuff for 52 years. I had kids figured out when I was 11. I started volunteering in daycare centers when I was 11 years old. And even back then, the daycare workers, I can remember them asking me, how do kids think you're fun and yet they respect you? How do you do that? And I didn't know. I didn't know how to answer that. I remember thinking, how can you not do this? It just came so easy to me. So anyway, if you hate me, just go. You're never going to like me. Just go somewhere else. If it aligns, I would strongly suggest, if you like what I'm saying and you're really struggling with your kids, don't look at anybody else for 3 weeks. Just follow my advice for 3 weeks. If it works, keep going. If it doesn't, say, well, she doesn't know what she's talking about, then move on. You got to just pick a path and do it for 3 weeks. Because if you don't give it that time, undivided attention, this one particular method, everything I teach leadership parenting. So if you were to throw time out into my method, mix up different methods from different people, it's like mixing up different diets. You're not going to get any results at all. Things might even get worse. So yeah, pick a path, go with it for 3 weeks, and then toss it if it doesn't work. If it works, keep going. So I never think I'm going to appeal to everybody. I don't want to. That's ridiculous. Everyone's different. We're all different colors, different attitudes, different religions. I don't think that we should I'm never going to cater to everybody. And, but yeah, if it suits you, don't look at anybody else for 3 weeks. Just follow what I say. And if you don't like me, go somewhere else and don't listen to me. Just follow them. And if it works, it works. It's very much like dieting. Yeah, I hate time out. I can't stand it. I know it's common. I hate it. I think it's really mean, degrading, humiliating. I hate it. Imagine if you made a mistake at work when your boss made you sit in a corner. Hey, you're 36 years old. You sit there for 36 minutes. You're not even worth talking to. This one mom, she was really funny. She said, I would love that 36-minute break. So much for that. She kind of blew my idea out of the water. Anyway, but I got to go. I'm going to move over to TikTok now. So if you want to join me over there, it's Bratbusters Parenting. You can check out the link above for my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, and coaching. So I'm moving over to TikTok. And I'm always on YouTube. Like the whole hour is always on YouTube. Okay, just moving over to TikTok now. I'm just talking to YouTube as I'm doing this. It's really weird. YouTube's my big audience. I mean, it's my small audience, but TikTok's my big audience, but I get the same numbers in Instagram on lives. I don't know why. Can't figure out social media. I'm not gonna try. Okay. Hello. Hello, I am. Hello, tsk. Or is that isk? I miss Dot. I haven't seen Dot for a while. It was just a dot. Hi, I am. Alexandra Staten. You've been here before, haven't you? That name sounds familiar. So I'm just looking at your names. By the way, when you're on TikTok, do you have the same names that you have on Instagram? Because I'm assuming most of you are coming over from Instagram because I just finished up there. Is that how that works? I don't know. I don't do my Instagram. I don't understand it. Anyway, so whenever I say I just did a video on something, it'll only be on TikTok. I don't manage my other platforms. Someone else does. And I never know when they're going to put stuff when. What they do is they pick and choose what they like the most on what works the best on TikTok, and then they move it over. And they sort of, I don't know what they do, but anyway, I don't understand it. But anyway, so when I say I just did a video, oh, my name for Instagram is my real name. Oh, okay. Oh, I guess that would be the case, wouldn't it? Yeah. Sorry, I don't really understand all that. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I've been watching since pregnant with my 16-month-old. Andrew said, yeah, I remember that name. Oh, how cute. How's it going? 16-month-old. How's it going? Okay. If you go on the link above, you can see my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, and you can hire me for coaching. Or you can do none of that and just keep watching and asking questions on here. It's up to you. So you can feel free to go ahead and ask questions about parenting, and I'll do my best to answer them. Remember, I only answer relationship problems, relationship issues between you and your children. I teach parenting. I don't teach nutrition or medicine or anything, you know. The only thing that I'll give advice on sometimes, people will ask me about picky eaters. I can't give advice on that because I'm not a nutritionist or anything, but I will tell what I did with my kids. And it doesn't mean it's right. It's just, so I'll sort of get around stuff like that. But even that, it's not my area. That's not my strength. My strength is relationships. So good. Your advice has made our lives amazing, full of fun. Oh, excellent, Alexandra. Yeah, Alexandra was saying she's been watching me since she was pregnant, and now she's got a 16-month-old. And she said, my advice has helped. Excellent, full of fun. Oh, you see, parenting's supposed to be fun. I know people always ask me about all the discipline, but that's a tiny part of it. I never disciplined my kids. Past the age of 3.5, they were self-disciplining right through the teen years because I was a leader. So anyway, leadership just kind of makes everything easy. Okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions. I'm assuming most of you've come over from Instagram because there's not a lot of questions right now. Okay, been using methods I've learned from you, and I must say it's working with my boys. Perfect. That's why I do this. I just love it. And I know it works. I've been doing this for 52 years with kids. My kids are grown. I've got a grandchild on the way now. So yeah, it just works. And by the way, a lot of people say, are you going to tell your kids how to parent? None of my business. I'm not a Badinsky. Nope, I'll just sit back and watch the show. None of my business. I've never told anyone else how to parent in my whole life. This is my business. You're soliciting my advice. But yeah, I've never told a friend or I've never given unsolicited advice, parenting advice to anyone. Yeah, and my kids will just sit back and it's none of my business. But when grandma's babysitting, grandma's rules. Grandma's rules. If I'm babysitting and the parents aren't around, if the parents are around, none of my business. That's the way it should be. I think a lot of, especially in-law, daughter-in-law relationships, the mother-in-law is trying to give advice. I would never do that. I would never do that to my son's girlfriend. Why would I do that to her? In other words, you're insulting them. Yeah. Okay. I love your videos and want to start the 5-week boot camp in the new year. Excellent. Well, it'll still be sitting there waiting for you. And that 5 weeks, I know some people say, oh, God, is it constant work for 5 weeks? No. You start with one rule in week 1. Then by week 2, you'll have 2 rules that you're working on. By week 3, you'll have 3. Then things should start to get easier. But you just start small. So you don't address everything that you want to correct. You only address really 3 things in the first 3 weeks. And then the kids start to see you know what they're doing and the other bad behaviors start to drop away. So you don't address everything they're doing at all. That would be, I would. If I went in on day 1, I'd address everything. But I'm level 10 with what I teach. I know how to get respect. I know how to focus on fun and make the discipline a very tiny part of everything. That's how you do it. That's what I used to do when I started working with kids when I was 11. That's what I always did. I always focused on fun, Lisa, being fun, and then the discipline, I hardly ever had to do it because they hated losing fun, Lisa. And it would just be for a minute or 2, but I would disappear like that if they ever acted out. I would just be completely not fun. Just get real quiet, and they hated it. So that's leadership. You want the power of them wanting to please you. They look up to you. You're fun. That's what you want. You want to be fun. Parenting is the most fun I ever had in my whole life. I get emotional every time I say that. I miss it. I miss it because it was the most fun I ever had in my whole life. Parenting was so much easier than I ever thought it would be because I knew how to get respect. I knew how to just get that pesky discipline out of the way. I didn't even have to deal with it anymore because I was fun. You want to be fun and connected with your kids. And then they want to please you because they look up to you and you treat them like gold. Like I always say you address bad behavior, get it over and done with like that. It's just like get it over and done with. Then you focus on the good kid. Bring out the best in them. Why did I get emotional with that? Yeah, I miss parenting. Someone said to me, well, why don't you have more kids? Well, I'm 63. How do you manage a toddler who won't sit in a high chair for more than 10 minutes, performs to get out? I don't know. Well, how old? Are they 3 or 13 months? Or I don't quite know what you mean. And I don't know what you mean by performs. You'd have to give me more information. The ignoring the tantrums worked with my daughter. Yeah. I always say that you ignore crazy and reward calm. That's why you would have to ignore tantrums. Should I tell the swing story? Nah, if anyone asks for it, I'll tell it. I just tell it so often. What to do when a child is in trouble, but you don't want to put them in timeout? Well, I hate timeout. I can't stand it. I think it's horrible. So well, just keep watching. I don't know what they're doing. What do you mean? Like I don't know how to respond to that and you have to give me a specific example. And by the way, if they're 3 and over, check out my behavior board. It tells you how I discipline. Discipline's a very tiny part of what I do. It's what people ask me about, but it has very little to do with what. Now think about it. I worked with kids for about 50 years, 52 years. And I had no power over those kids, none. I couldn't take media away from them. I had no leverage, none. So how on earth did I get respect if I couldn't even discipline them? Think about it. I'm a leader. Think about it. Does that make sense? Like I had no leverage. So how did I get respect from all those hundreds of kids, troubled teenagers, they're all ADHD, almost all of them. Next level behavior. How did I get respect and good behavior out of all those kids? Hundreds of them. I had no leverage. What did I do? I was a leader. So it's about connecting and bonding with them, bringing out the best in them. I used to work with troubled teenagers, and I heard more than once, I didn't even like myself until I met you, Lisa. You want to bring out the best in them. Boy, there's your power right there. You make kids like themselves when they're with you. There's your power. It's huge, huge. Raise their self-esteem and their confidence. Make them feel good about themselves when they're with you. They'll bend over backwards to please you. And that gives you a lot of power over them. You got to be really careful with that too, because they are very sensitive to you. So think about that. That's what leadership is. Bringing out the best in them. It's not about discipline. It's just that's what you ask me about all the time, but it has so little to. That's when people hire me for coaching. They're always surprised that the discipline's very little, tiny part of it. It's about how do you connect with kids? How do you bring out the best in kids? How do you make kids feel good about themselves? And when you're the source of that, you're like a mentor, like a coach that they really look up to. That's the relationship. I would say the closest relationship to the way I parent would be a really good sports coach who loves the kids, gets the best out of them, and they're all happy and they all get along. That's the way I parented. But I didn't ignore bad behavior. Like a coach has kids sitting on the bench if they act out, right? You still address bad behavior, but then, okay, you're off now, and then they're your biggest, they treat you like gold again. Does that make sense? Okay, here you go. I got a good answer for you. What if I'm the problem? It's always the parents are the problem. Always. Always. Even if you're not, I always blame the parents. And I say, you have to take full responsibility. If you'd rather blame your kids than yourself, you can only change yourself anyway. Always take the blame. Then you can also take the credit when they're great. I would definitely take the blame. If I was working with kids an hour a week and they acted out, I still took the blame. What am I missing? I'm not a good enough mentor for them. Okay, so what if I'm the problem? I feel I'm copying how I was raised instead of how I educate myself. Well, then you're just going to have to say, you know what? That ends today. I'm going to change that today. You can change. You can change how you parent. That's what all the people who hire me, that's what they hire me to do. And they say, I get it. It's not just about parenting. It's about becoming a better me, bringing out the best in other people, liking myself enough to trust myself, rather than focusing on how people are hurting me, even my kids are upsetting me. Rather than focused on that, focus on what I can give. Yeah, just change it today. Make that decision. It's easier said than done. Right? I know. I'm not saying I never said it was easy. Not for 1 second. That's why coaching is often that I coach people through this all the time. I always say, they often say, you talk us off the cliff every week, because that I have to encourage, and that's a big part of it. I'm not a therapist in any way that they always say I am, but I'm not at all. I don't have any qualifications for that at all. But that's a big part of it, is I have to help you, encourage you to keep going. Because some of them, parents that hire me, have some of the most horrific backgrounds themselves, like abuse and horrible, awful stuff, abandonment, all sorts of stuff. So we have to work through that. And yeah, I never said it was easy, did I? I always say the opposite. I say getting respect is hard work. You got to work for that. You got to earn it. You got to command it. You don't demand it. You got to work. You got to earn that. But maintaining it is easy. Getting respect is hard. Maintaining it's easy. So yeah, never said it was easy doing all this. It's worth it though. I would say there's two things that I'm most proud of working with kids. One one of them is really hard to explain. I've told this story before. I won't go into it in great detail, but I was a huge group of unruly toddlers that I had to manage. And I think I did it for hours. And then when I was finished, I think I needed to sleep for a whole week. It was exhausting. But I didn't know I had that in me. I didn't know I could do it. And the parents were all coming to me later saying, "How'd you do that?" And, it's exhausting working with other people's kids because they don't know me. They don't know all the rules. And but yeah, that was one of the things I was most proud of, that I managed to do that. I survived, barely. That was like 30 years ago. I'm still scarred from that. How to deal with one special needs kid not getting along with 3-year-old. You have to hire me for that. That special needs would be coaching. I can't answer that right now. I don't know what the special needs are. A week of sleep. Yeah, I just about did. I was exhausted. And then they wanted me to do it again. I laughed. Yeah, I never did that again. How do I teach my child to calm down when angry? Well, you don't fix kids, you fix and teach yourself. When you're a leader, they do tend to calm down. You lead, they will follow. So it's all about you. You lead, they will follow. You don't teach a kid. You can't teach a kid to calm down. Calm down. Yeah, you can't do that. It's all this self-regulating talk and discussing big emotions, big feelings. If I hear any more, that'll puke. It's garbage. You set yourself up as a leader, and that calms them down. They just feel safe when they're with a leader. It's just the way it is. I'll tell you a funny story. This one, it shocked me, actually. Years and years ago, I used to help out in classrooms. And every so often they'd ask a whole bunch of parents. It was almost always moms, sometimes dads, but usually moms. And then we'd all go in and we'd all have to split up. And it would be like an activity day or some kind of weird thing. Anyway, so we'd all split up the whole class, and there'd be like 6 moms and 6 different groups of kids. So anyway, the moms were all teasing me because I always talk tough. I hate kids, blah, blah, blah. I just turn up because it's part of my probation from jail. I was always telling these crazy. So they always thought I was nuts. Anyway, so then they were joking around. They said, well, no one's going to want to be in Lisa's group. So we went in the classroom and all the kids wanted to be in my group. And the parents couldn't figure it out. I won't say how much I hate kids. Anyway, so then the parents kept looking over too, because my group was just great. They were having fun. They were being really polite, and they couldn't figure it out. Anyway, here's the funny part. So all their groups were all chaotic. None of the kids were listening to the moms. It was hilarious. So anyway, then the fire alarm was pulled. It was not a planned fire alarm. And it was, some kid had just pulled it, scared the bejeebies out of all of us, including the kids. All the kids ran to me, not the teacher and not the mums. They didn't even run to their own mums. But I'm a leader. They feel safe with a leader. So the mums were so hurt. Why did their kids all run to me? Because I'm a leader. It's just a powerful position to be in with kids. They feel safe with you. So never be afraid to be a leader. It's not the authority style parent. It's not the authority style. A leader is like a really good sports coach that brings out the best in kids. But also you deal with bad behavior, but it's very quick. But yeah, I was shocked they did that. They didn't like me more than their moms, but they just felt safest with me. Do you work with autistic children? I don't work with any children anymore. I just work with parents. But yeah, if you have an autistic child and you want to work with me, that has to be coaching. I don't discuss autism on the platforms here. There's no point. Okay, very good question. And if only actions are on the behavior board, how do you deal with back talk and yelling? Wait, I got to write that down. If I'm going to do a video on it. Shoot, just a sec. If only actions are put on behavior board, how to deal with yelling, back talk, etc. Very good question. Because the behavior board is about you learning how to be a leader. Once you're a leader, they don't back talk a leader. They would be embarrassed to do so. They just wouldn't. Like my kids never said they hated me or told me, they never did anything like that. Why would they? It would have been embarrassing to do that to me because I gave respect to get it. So once you're a leader, all that stuff disappears. It happens organically. They stop yelling. They stop back talking. They stop being rude. When you're a leader, all that stuff takes care of itself. That's why. If you don't address it, there's no point. Do we need to hire you to learn to be a leader? Not necessarily. You can start with my behavior board, by the way. That's completely free. If you've got a 3 or older, 3-year-old, between 3 and 12 years old, that's the boot camp course in 5 weeks, teaches you how to be a leader. If you want the next level, then that would be coaching with me. Yeah. Some people buy the boot camp course and coaching. They want me to go through it with them. And the boot camp course is nice to have as reference material because it goes through a whole bunch of different stuff like sex education, bullying, all that stuff that may never come up, or it might, I don't know. But I put a whole bunch of other stuff in there. So it's good reference material, but that I'll leave it up to you. You decide. You are giving dominant vibes. Yeah, I am, aren't I? My son is autistic. 3 in 1 month. Okay, my son is autistic, has reading. Okay, I don't discuss autism on these platforms. I only discuss it in coaching. How to deal with a 2-year-old laughing and thinking it's a game when disciplining. You're just not doing it right. You're talking too much, I'm assuming. It's bothering you when they laugh at you. Yeah, you're just not doing it right. His actions have gotten so much better. We'll have to keep working on leadership then. Yeah, leadership is where it's at. Because everything just takes care of itself. It's sort of once you're set up as a leader, everything just takes care of itself. You know, I managed to get respect with hundreds of kids. Was it the kids or was it me? They know when you like them too. Like I like kids, so they pick up on that. And I know how to talk to them. So they pick up on that. They respect that I put in the effort to get to understand. I put in the effort to understand children. And they pick up on that. Okay, this is a very good question, but not for the reason you think. 15-month-old heading, what am I doing wrong? You're not doing anything wrong if your 15-month-old decides to hit. You're doing something wrong if they're still hitting in a few months from now. So it's something that you'll want to address. They're either going to hit, or they're going to climb, or they're going to be runners taking off on you, or they're going to tantrum. They're born to do those 4 things, or they're not. You know, my kids, the only one my kids did, my son had tantrums. The rest of them they didn't do. They're either born to do those things or they're not. So you didn't do anything wrong because they do it. But in a few months, if they're still doing it, then you really want to figure out then you're doing something wrong. Just figure out how to do something right then. It's consistent corrective actions. Every time they hit, you have to address it. You say no, and you take them away from the fun or fun away from them. Just for a couple minutes. You have to send that message every single time. Don't use words. Just one word no to trigger that something's happening, that you're going to take action. That no means I'm taking action. Someone said, well, why do you say no if you don't use words? I get kids on here, right? I don't get a lot of trash talk. A lot of people used to go on here and say nasty stuff. I guess they've all abandoned ship because they know it doesn't. I don't actually really like that. My daughter knows that. She knows I miss that stuff because it's usually kids who do that. And he says the bad word the next day. Say you got a kid doing, I don't know how old he is. Is he 16 or 2 or I need an age. 3-year-old. Okay, here we go. So you put down no bad words on the behavior board. And every time he says a bad word, there's a consequence. That's how you deal with that. And then you say, I'm going to be asking the teacher if the teacher says you said a bad word. So if he says it a whole bunch of times in one day, you go right to the second consequences. Kids have 2 consequences. Check it out. The behavior board explains that. You start with a positive action. If they won't do that, then you do a negative deprivation. Okay? But if they say bad words a lot all throughout the day, you say, you know what? You said a whole bunch of bad words. So we're not going to do the first consequence. We're going to go right to no TV for the rest of the day. Something like that. My kids don't listen to me. What should I do? Become a leader. Turn yourself into a leader, and they will. I got all sorts of tricks up my sleeve. Just little things. Reminded me of a story. Oh, should I tell it here? No, I don't want to tell it here because I don't know how old that child is. Yeah, you have to put ages down. I can't answer. There's a whole bunch of stuff I can't answer if I don't know the age. I tell him that's very bad words. Our family doesn't say those, so I never want to have a mini therapy session. He's not listening. in one ear and out the other. You're using words. You're trying to reason with them. It's about consequences. We all learn about consequences, right? If someone said, you know, I really want you to pay your taxes because your taxes pay for this, but if there was never any consequence to never paying taxes, how many people might not pay taxes? We all learn, because there's a consequence to everything we do. If you don't teach that to your children, they're going to be drooling idiots by the time they grow up. They're not going to understand consequences. They're going to be the ones fighting parking tickets when they're obviously in the wrong. Every time I see that, I think, I know exactly how they were raised. Every time I see a moron arguing a parking ticket when they obviously were parked wrong, illegally, I don't care if they're in there for 2 minutes or 2 hours. They argue that. I was only in there for 2 minutes. What does that mean? I was only speeding for, 2 minutes. Like, what does that mean? I know exactly how they were raised. No accountability. None. How to build confidence. When you're a leader, you bring out the best in children. Their self-esteem raises because they feel good about themselves. They take pride in who they are. That's how you get confident kids, with high self-esteem. The outside world can be quite cruel. So you can't control everything, but you can give them a really good head start by sending them out in the world with high self-esteem and confidence at home. Yeah. But it's your leadership. Leadership is everything. Children need, crave, and want a leader. If you don't provide that for them, they're going to go out in the world very vulnerable and susceptible to peer pressure, bullying, the drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians. They're going to be very vulnerable out there. If they've got a leader at home, they come home and they tell you everything right through the teen years. Someone said, that's bull. No one tells their mother or the father everything. I told my mother everything. My kids told me everything. Yeah. You're a safe place to land. Believe me, my mom didn't want to hear everything, but she heard it. She told me years later that she'd often go like this behind my back. Oh my God. And I did the exact same with my kids. But you can't show it when you're listening. Oh, that's nice. Oh, how nice. Oh, okay. Actually, time's up. I got to get going. Thanks so much for watching me. What was I going to say? I was going to say something, never mind. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. If you want to check out the link above, you can download my free behavior board, buy one of my mini toddler courses, buy my big boot camp course, or hire me for coaching. So that's on the link above. Everything I have is up there. If not, I'll be back again tomorrow sometime. I don't know what time. And thanks so much for joining me. Talk to you later. Bye now.